already in the 70s, so it's beautiful. Today's reading log is reading log 11, and this is what is the rising action of your novel. So this is everything that happened from after the first 6 chapters, reading log 5. That was your exposition, where we got introduced to some of the characters and our settings, and really was the introduction of the book. Everything that happened after Mr. Nigel Rasmussen tells her of what just happened from CPOC to now, to the end of this chapter. Give me 6 sentences at least, or 250 words, on what has happened since Nigel Rasmussen appeared in the game to the end of this chapter. And that is our rising action. To next week, we start our climax. It's very exciting. Okay, this is chapter 13, called Disarming the Troops. "Now," Sister Mary Ursula said, "the first thing you must do is cleanse yourself." How kind of her to notice. "Yeah," I said, checking out the skirt of my dress. "I'm pretty disgusting." She sighed loudly. "Physical appearance is not what is important." "Yeah, right. Tell that to any girl who hasn't bothered to put on a presentable shirt or fix her hair because she's only running to the grocery store to get a quart of milk for her grandmother. And who does she see tending the 7 items or less cash register but the guy of her dreams? Except she can't even say hi, much less try to develop a meaningful relationship, since she looks like the poster child for the terminally geeky." But Sister Mary Ursula came from a different world from me. I suspected Sister Mary Ursula came from a different world from the other people in this world too. But I didn't say so. She told me, "You need to cleanse your soul to make it one with the world." "How do I do that?" I asked. "Solitude, fasting, meditation, skinny dipping in the moonlight." "Yeah, I'll wait until my 2nd week as king for that," I said, willing to risk that I was skipping something I was supposed to do. Sister Mary Ursula didn't argue. "Always lead to the one," she said, "though some ways get you there faster." "Speaking of getting places," I said, "what I want are people to deliver messages for me. Who would I talk to about that?" "You could talk to me," Sister Mary Ursula said, "but in all honesty, I don't know much about it. Probably the one you may speak to is Penrod, Captain of the Guard." "Fine. Thank you," I said. "I'll see you later." "Don't you want to discuss the meaning of life?" Sister Mary Ursula took a few steps after me, but she stopped falling when I said, "In a little bit." She was obviously a dead end. I had chosen the wrong counselor, and that was all there was to it. There was no way the game was supposed to be played with me spending my first afternoon here cleansing my soul and listening to Sister Mary Ursula philosophize about life. Or, at least, I don't think so. I was sure the ceiling would come crashing down on me at any moment now. Or maybe there would be an earthquake or a tidal wave. Something to kill me off and set me down in the beginning again. But in the meanwhile, there was no reason I couldn't try to find out the information that would be useful for my next try. I went back out into the courtyard. No guards this time. If they weren't terrorizing the local citizenry, they were probably huddled somewhere and conspiring to kill me. I stopped a servant woman who was carrying a basket of laundry. "Any idea where I could find Captain Penrod?" I asked her. He might be in the guardhouse." She pointed to one of the doorways. Luckily, the door was wide open, because I didn't know if, as a princess about to be appointed king, I was supposed to knock. I mean, obviously I outranked them, I didn't want to walk into a group of guys who might be in the process of dressing or undressed, or might be sitting around scratching or belching or farting or doing whatever it is guys do when there aren't any civilized folk around. But with the door already open, I rapped my knuckles against the door frame and called, "Hello," and walked in. Pause. Sorry. There were about a half a dozen guards who were neither walking around naked nor conspiring against me, at least not obviously so. Apparently, this wasn't where they slept, but just where they hung around. A pair of them were seated at a table, playing a game my subconscious identified as knucklebones. Most of the others were clustered around them, and I gathered from the snatch of conversation I caught before they saw me and stopped, they were betting on the outcome of the game. One man was napping on a cot in the corner, and another was making some sort of adjustment to his sword belt. All the men, except the napper, jumped to attention when they saw me. Not guiltily, I thought, just wary. "Captain Penrod?" I asked.
"Yeah."
The man who answered was the one who had been fiddling with his belt. He was also the guard I had talked to several times this morning, the one who had arrested the poacher, the one who had killed me 2 or 3 games back. I decided not to hold that against him. "I need to invite the magic users to the realm of a meeting, I said.
"Done,"
the man said. Did he mean, "I will do your bidding so quickly you might as well consider it done already"? Because he certainly wasn't moving, quickly or otherwise. "Done?" I repeated.
"Prince Wolfgar already gave that order."
"Oh," I said. Because, excuse me, but the way Wolfgar and I had left things, Sister Mary Ursula was my advisor, and she had advised me to steer clear of magic, and he had no reason to believe I wouldn't take her recommendation. Sure, that was what I had decided, but after he left, and I had certainly not told him to go ahead and give the order. Some of this, not the details, but the surprise and annoyance, must have shown on my face. Captain Penrod gave an unpleasant smile and said, "You and Prince Wolfgar need to consult more to get your story straight." I took that as an indication the captain had found out I had misled him regarding the poacher. I didn't like the way the other men had moved in closer, even the guy who earlier had been lying down. I braced myself, but so far their weapons were still sheathed. "You're right," I told Penrod. I told all of them. As I'm starting my role, I'm sure to make many mistakes. But I want you to know, you and your men are very important to me. I realize you performed some of the hardest, most dangerous, most thankless jobs in the realm. I had no idea what their duties were, but doesn't everybody feel that describes their jobs? I figured it couldn't hurt to be a little more sympathetic. They did seem to, well, not mellow or relax, but maybe loosen a bit in my words. I want you all to feel free to come to me with any of your concerns. I want you to go ahead and give me advice if you think anything in the way of this kingdom is being run wrong. Well, that was a mistake. They started complaining to me about everything from being too soft on the peasants to the fact that they weren't paid enough and weren't paid regularly. And the food was generally pretty lousy. And they really didn't like the way the queen had a tendency to hit on the younger men. "Wow," I said, the instant there was a pause. "I'm going to look into all those things. First, I was going to apologize for undermining their authority with the poacher boy, but on second thought, they might take that as permission to enact harsher measures on the nearest peasants. Besides, I didn't think a king should start her reign by apologizing. First," I said, "the money owed to you." That certainly seemed the right choice for getting their attention. They all spoke at once again, their words tumbling over one another, but I gathered that they had been shortened their salaries several times over the past months. "Who's in charge of paying you?" I asked.
"Counselor Houghton,"
they all said, 7 voices speaking as one. Houghton, of course, had walked off in a huff. Had he simply left my presence, or had he left the castle? "I will get to the bottom of this," I promised. "Who can take me to Counselor Houghton's room? Or..." I still didn't have a clear idea what I was supposed to be doing in this game. Or, well, to all the places I need to go. They all looked ready to volunteer, which was a distinct improvement to their earlier mood. But it was Penrod who said,
"I will accompany you, Highness."
"Good. Thank you." I nodded to the other men. "At ease," I said, which was about all the military speak I knew. Penrod and I walked back into the courtyard. "Any idea how soon before the magic users will be here?" I asked.
"Aldemar is only one with the regular house in the town, and that's about a half a day's ride from here. The messenger Prince Wulfgar sent should be there by late afternoon. Aldemar has wizardly ways of contacting the others, depending on where they are and if they can come immediately. I should think they should be here sometime between noon tomorrow and..." He trailed off, indicating there was no upper limit for how long it could take. Ouch. Okay, so I guess I wasn't supposed to wait for them. Then my new top priority was to get the guards happy with me so that they wouldn't kill me again. "What?" I started, but I heard a sound, that stomach-churning whoosh of an arrow that I recognized from my death a couple times back when the woodsmen had fired their arrows at me. What did I do now? I thought things had been going, well, not well, but sort of okay. Hadn't they? Had the guardsmen been only pretending to accept my proposals? Except I hadn't feel an arrow slam into me, and I didn't feel any fizziness. I looked back to the doorway of the guardsmen, but there was no bowman there. Could I have imagined that sound? But as I turned to Captain Penrod, he wasn't where I had left him. He was, in fact, on the ground at my feet, an arrow through his heart. There was a supply wagon parked in front of the servants' entrance, and a man jumped out from behind it. He was huge, hairy guy, and it was hard to tell where his hairiness ended and his tunic, which my subconscious identified as elk hide, began. On his head was one of those horned helmets worn by cartoon Vikings and fat ladies in German operas. Before I could get out much more than a squeak, he clapped a massive hand over my mouth. I kicked, I squirmed, I even tried to bite his hand, but it didn't get much of a reaction. Still, my pathetic scream must have gotten someone's attention, for one of the guards came to the guardroom door. A second man, who could have been my attacker's twin, edged out from behind the wagon and let loose an arrow that struck the guard in the throat. I was still trying to jab my attacker where it hurts, which is apparently a lot easier in the movies than in real life, as he dragged me backward toward the wagon. There were 2 bowmen behind the wagon who covered our retreat, as well as others. I now saw on top of the wall that separated the courtyard from the surrounding woods. At just about the same time, I became aware that the placement of the wagon had hidden a rope ladder the attackers had used to get into the castle compound. I also became aware that it wasn't my attacker's hand that smelled so bad, but the cloth he held in his hand over my nose and my mouth. Whatever he soaked that cloth in made my knees wobble and give out. He flung me over his shoulder as he grabbed hold of the rope. The ground spun, and I lost consciousness. The end. See you next week for chapter 14 and my favorite character, King Grimbold.